Hi, it's Joanne and Steve from Freshagenda, and this week we thought we'd give you a bit of a recap from last week's ADPI Conference that was held in Chicago. It's the biggest gathering of the US dairy industry, but it's in fact a really global conference, and it was a much more upbeat sentiment this year than we've seen in previous years, just reflecting that a bit of a rally in commodity prices.
So our take was, I suppose the first thing we thought was, and we've talked about it a fair bit, but it's the take on Europe.
Yes.
What's the read on Europe? And it's almost like a weekly event. In our flowchart that we've got up here now, that just showing the relationships that we're able to map and track in our work. A lot of this is very relevant to what's being felt in the US market, but also from the global context and where that's going.
Yeah, so a lot of focus on what's happening with skim milk powder prices and how that's flowing through to non-fat dry milk prices in the US. Stocks are quite high at the moment, but we're still seeing quite strong prices. So a bit of a feeling that they may have overcorrected on the way up. Butter. The EU situation is important for butter values, but they don't really flow through to the US market as strongly.
US seems to be quite ring-fenced with butter, and it's the internal dynamics that seem to be driving that, and then that's keeping their cheese values down, as we've tracked, and there's a chart showing that relationship there.
Yeah, there's always a very good outlook session at the beginning of the conference, and in that session there was quite a lot of discussion about the US domestic market, which seems to be in quite good balance at the moment.
Yeah, more positive. So demand has been weaker, expected to pick up, so things are flowing through the economy. People got a bit more cash, so that was positive. But on the other side, there's a very good weather session always at the start of that event. And a guy John Davis, who presents that, gave the take that US weather looks like there's some red flags on the horizon that will affect the corn crop, and that might tighten pricing a bit. So put those two things together, a bit of slower supply, better demand, we should see the US improve. So that was probably a good part of that US sentiment that we felt was a lot stronger.
Yeah, although for farmers margins are tightening, but that will slow production hopefully. In terms of, there was a little bit of talk just on the side, it's not a huge issue yet, but there was a lot of talk about alternatives also in that session. So, they're certainly very focused. A bit of discussion on A2 as well, and what that's going to mean.
It's a building story in the US. We've seen, I guess, more of it here because we're a smaller market, but the US is starting to see the alternate chip into certainly their milk sales. It's been going on for a while, but also the general impact on dairy across the board because of the size of those alternate products.
Yeah. I've just seen in the media there's been a bit of a bingle between A2 and the industry, so one to watch.
Yeah. Big focus in the US in one of the sessions on export growth, the future potential for export growth. So US DEC has this program about the next 5%.
Yes.
And we saw the Secretary of US DEC talking about, how about getting on with it? What's it going to mean? Where's the opportunity? And just how that's going to flow into the industry. So that's watch this space. That's an interesting area for some future thinking.
Yeah, Vilsack's very focused on that growth, and they're doing quite a lot in that space, and they've just had a record month of exports, so he must be feeling fairly chuffed about that. March was a record in the US and very strong for skim. Yeah. And very strong for cheese into some of our traditional markets too. So
yeah, well, the US has got a good price advantage at the moment. So that's we see Oceania and European prices for cheese move up. So that improves the scope for the Americans to export.
That's right. Yeah. Notwithstanding the Trump factor in terms of trade policy, which is still a fairly large source of uncertainty over there.
Yeah, and that's the fourth big thing that is getting kicked around. The Trumponomics. Well, I'm not sure what the right word is. The impact on that China spat. In terms of its impact on dairy, it's already an impact on the feed supply. So with the shutdown essentially of the soy market. And will that roll into dairy? And there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear about that. The outcome of NAFTA.
Yeah, still a big unknown. We asked lots of people what their feeling was about where that's at, because we do see reports that a resolution is imminent, but no one had much
little on
insight.
detail.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that political, we've seen this week the Iran nuclear deal, or the US pulling out of that, but the uncertainty caused by these increasing tensions has certainly lifted oil prices.
Yeah.
And that has, a bit of a double-edged effect.
Yeah, it can be a positive for demand, yeah.
Positive for demand, it could increase the cost of feed. That's got, a fair bit to play out, but that's an interesting space as well. So,
sure. Yeah.
Plenty of interesting things. That's probably a wrap of what we took away from it. We took away a lot of photos. A lot of good times, but it was an interesting time in the industry to be bumping into that crowd in a global sense.